Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're going to explore this fascinating world of energy and vibration, something, we don't always think about.
Right.
And you guys sent in some really interesting stuff from Hans Wilhelm, who, looks at all of this, through consciousness and spirituality. It's really cool. So let's dive into this. How does our sense of touch connect us to this whole network of energy? It's kind of wild when you think about it.
Yeah, and Wilhelm, he really hits on this point that everything is energy, and it's constantly, sending and receiving these vibrations. It's like this constant exchange back and forth. And we're part of it, whether we, realize it or not.
Okay, I'm already hooked.
Yeah.
But how does touch, our sense of touch play into this whole thing?
Well, every time we touch something, we leave a little bit of our own energy,
Mm.
right? Our own, vibration, our own mark. And in turn, we also absorb some of the energy from whatever we're touching. Think about, the chair you're sitting on right now.
Yeah.
Who knows how many people have sat in that chair before you, and all of their energy, it's all kind of soaked into it.
Whoa, that's kind of mind-blowing. It makes you wonder what you're picking up, right? From just everyday things.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting, because Wilhelm suggests that all those little bits of energy we absorb, well, they can actually affect us. They can have an impact on our own energy field, or our aura, as some people call it. And, maybe even amplify, negative thoughts we already have, or even bring up old issues, emotional stuff we thought we dealt with.
Okay, that is, I gotta say, a little unsettling. Can you give us an example of how that might actually play out in, everyday life?
Sure. Imagine you find this awesome vintage jacket at a thrift store.
Yeah, love a good vintage find.
You're drawn to it, right? The style, the history, all of that.
Yeah.
But think about it. You have no idea who wore that jacket before you or what they went through.
Yeah.
Their energy, their emotions, it's all kind of embedded in that fabric. Maybe they were, super stressed from their job or heartbroken from a bad breakup. All of that energy, it's still there.
So by wearing that jacket, I could be, taking on some of those same feelings.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, sensitive to energy. It's not about being scared of everything you touch, but being aware, being mindful that there's this exchange happening all the time.
It's like a whole hidden language we're just starting to understand. And, Wilhelm, he also talks about, the energy of the creator getting embedded in objects. What happens when we buy things, that maybe weren't made with the best energy? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge point. Even something created by a computer, it still carries the energy of the person who programmed it, who designed it.
Mm.
So nothing is truly neutral, which raises a really interesting question, right? What kind of energy do we bring to our own work, to our creations? What are we putting out there into the world?
Wow. Makes you think, it's like we have this responsibility as creators.
Absolutely. And to illustrate this whole concept, Wilhelm uses this great story about Uncle George and his bomber jacket.
Oh, yeah, the vodka-soaked jacket. I remember this. Tell me more about Uncle George.
Well, you got to picture Uncle George, this guy who enjoyed his nightly vodka, maybe a little too much. And over time, that habit, created this very specific vibration, this energy that basically soaked into his favorite jacket. It's like what Wilhelm explains it as the jacket becoming infused with this vodka energy.
So even though, Uncle George might be long gone, his energy and maybe even his love for vodka is still hanging out in that jacket. It's kind of wild, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Anyone who wears that jacket, they might unknowingly be tuning into that energy. And who knows, maybe it could even trigger similar cravings in them.
Okay, that's both fascinating and a little creepy. It really shows you how clothing, or any object really, can hold on to someone's energy long after they're gone. So how do we protect ourselves from all this, unintentional absorption? Is there anything we can do?
Well, Wilhelm gives some practical tips. He talks about, cleaning your clothes thoroughly,
Yeah.
Being mindful of what you touch. He even mentions how in some cultures they avoid shaking hands, as a way to prevent this mixing of energy.
That's interesting. Makes you wonder, with the pandemic and all the focus on hand washing and being careful about germs, maybe it's made us a little more aware of these energetic exchanges too.
That's a great point. It's like we've been forced to think about these invisible things that we're interacting with all the time. But instead of living in fear of every doorknob and piece of clothing, Wilhelm really emphasizes awareness as the key. It's about, being mindful of your interactions, of what you're touching and who you're interacting with, and making choices, conscious choices about, what energies you're engaging with.
So it's not about being like an energy germaphobe, but more like an energy, connoisseur, like being picky about what we let into our space.
Exactly. He talks
Hmm.
about moving away from this, thoughtless touching and really becoming more conscious, more aware of the choices we're making. And this leads us to, his final point, which is this whole idea of being present, living in the here and now.
Ah, mindfulness. Okay, I have a feeling this is where things get really good. So how does mindfulness actually help us in all of this? With all this unseen energy and stuff.
Well, when you're mindful, you're not just like on autopilot,
Yeah.
reacting to everything without thinking. You're present,
Oh, where?
and you can make choices about what energies you let influence you.
So it's like we become, I don't know, less like a sponge soaking everything up and more like a filter?
Yeah, exactly. You start to see that there's this constant flow of vibrations, right?
Yeah.
And you can consciously choose.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, this one I'm going to let in, and this one, nope, not today.
That makes me think about, meditation. Could that be a way to cultivate this awareness, to become more mindful?
Oh, absolutely. Meditation helps you become aware of your own thoughts and feelings and all those sensations. And remember, those are all forms of energy, too. So, the more you're in tune with your own energy, the better you are at making choices about what you touch, what you surround yourself with,
Yeah.
what energies you're letting into your
So
life.
it's like through mindfulness, we can create our own like energetic diet, choosing the good stuff, and avoiding the stuff that might drain us or bring us down.
Exactly. It's all about becoming aware of what feels good for you energetically and making choices that support that, that
Yeah.
support your well-being.
This is all so fascinating, but I got to be honest, it can be kind of overwhelming, right? Thinking about all this unseen energy all around us.
I get it. Yeah. It's a big shift in how we see things. But it's not about, being afraid or paranoid. It's about, feeling empowered. The more you understand this, the more you can, navigate it consciously and create a better experience for yourself, a more positive, harmonious experience.
Wilhelm also talked about how some cultures, they have traditions and practices that seem to like intuitively acknowledge all of this
Hmm?
energetic exchange.
Oh, yeah. He talks about how in like some Eastern traditions, they burn the clothes of people who have passed away. It's a way of making sure their energy doesn't linger, and affect others.
It's like these traditions are tapping into this ancient wisdom that, maybe modern society has kind of forgotten. Like we've lost touch literally and figuratively with this whole understanding of energy.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, rediscovering this knowledge, it gives us the power to, make better choices.
Hmm.
So how do we use this? How do we put this knowledge into practice in our daily lives?
Well, I guess for starters, just being more aware of our sense of touch. How do different objects feel? How do different people make us feel? Do we feel energized or drained after certain interactions? Does something give us a weird vibe?
Yeah, exactly. Paying attention to those subtle feelings can tell us a lot about the energy we're encountering, right?
Mm.
And then from there, we can start making choices. Maybe it's, cleaning up our homes, getting rid of stuff that doesn't feel good energetically. Or maybe it's being more intentional about, who we hang out with, choosing people who lift us up and inspire us.
It's like creating an environment, an energetic environment that supports us, right? That helps us grow. But I'm also curious about, the energy we bring to our own creative stuff, the things we make, the art we create, the work we put out there. Does that carry our energy too? Does it have our energetic imprint on it?
That's such a good point. If everything has this energetic imprint, like Wilhelm says, then we have a responsibility to be mindful of what we're putting into our creations, right?
Mm. Because it's going to be felt by others, whether we intend it to or not.
Exactly. So if we want to create things that lift people up, that inspire them,
Hmm.
then we have to pay attention to our own energy while we're creating.
It's like we're, I don't know, like energetic alchemists, transforming energy into matter, into something real.
Yeah.
And the quality of that creation, it depends on the energy we bring to it.
I love that. The energetic alchemist. It's so true. It's like the alchemists of old. We have this power to create something beautiful and powerful. It all comes down to, our awareness, our intention. What are we bringing to the table?
This whole deep dive has been, honestly, it's been mind-blowing. It's like we've been living in black and white and suddenly, boom, someone turned on the color.
I know, right? It's like this hidden layer of meaning, this interconnectedness that's always been there. And the coolest part is realizing that we have, more agency than we thought,
Hmm.
more control.
It's so empowering to
Yeah.
realize that.
Knowledge is power, right? It helps us make better choices, create a better life. Speaking of knowledge, I think Wilhelm mentions a book in his video that goes deeper into all of this.
Oh, yeah. We should totally share that with everyone, put it in the show notes so they can keep exploring all of this.
Definitely. I'm sure they'll be fascinated.
This has been, wow, just incredible. It feels like we've just scratched the surface, you know?
That's the beauty of it, right? It's a journey. And this is just the beginning. Who knows what else is out there waiting to be discovered?
Well, those discoveries are going to have to wait for another deep dive. But for now, I think it's time to leave our listener with a question to think about. So now that you know about this whole hidden world of vibrations and how your sense of touch plays into it all, how are you going to approach things differently? How will you approach your daily life, the objects you touch, the people you interact with?
That's a great question. It's worth really sitting with that. Sometimes the biggest discoveries start with the simplest questions.
And that's what this is all about, right? Asking questions, exploring possibilities, and understanding this amazing world around us a little bit better.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
You know, it's wild to think about. We're not just like absorbing energy, you know?
Yeah.
We're sending it out too. Like we're giving off these vibrations, these frequencies.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really important. Wilhelm, he makes that point that we're always, transmitting our own energy, our thoughts, our feelings, even our intentions. They all have this energetic signature.
Yeah.
They're going out there.
So it's not just about being careful about what we're, picking up, but also what we're putting out there, right?
Right. Think about it. You're like a walking beacon of energy.
Ooh.
And that beacon, it can either be shining light or casting shadows.
Yeah.
It all depends on what kind of frequencies you're putting out there.
Yep. That makes me think about, how important it is to cultivate a positive mindset. If we're constantly stressed out or negative or angry, that's the energy we're spreading, right?
Yeah, and what you put out is what you get back, right? It's like that law of sowing and reaping. It's not just for actions, it's for energy too. If you want to experience more joy, more peace, you got to cultivate those frequencies within yourself first and foremost.
It's so powerful to think that we have this control, We're not just at the mercy of our circumstances, we're active participants in creating our own experience.
That's it, yeah. So next time you walk into a room, picture yourself radiating this positive energy, like a glowing ball of light.
We were like that.
And just notice how it affects the people around you. You might be surprised.
This whole deep dive, it's really shifted my perspective. It's like realizing we're all connected, on this energetic level. We're constantly influencing each other, with our energy.
And that awareness, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's what allows us to grow, to transform. It helps us make better choices. Not just about the things we touch, but about our thoughts, our emotions, everything.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is you're not just absorbing energy, you're creating it. You have the power to choose what frequencies you embody, and what you put out into the world. By being aware, by making conscious choices, you can create a more positive, harmonious experience, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you.
That's a beautiful message. And I have a feeling this is just the beginning of a much longer journey for our listeners, So if you're feeling inspired to learn more about all of this, check out the show notes. We'll have a link to the book Wilhelm mentions.
Definitely. And remember, this is just one perspective, There's so much out there to explore, so much to learn. So keep an open mind, stay curious, and most importantly, keep diving deep.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep shining your light.